तपस्वाध्याय शुश्रूषा कृष्णपूजारतं मुनिं विश्वेशमिष्टदं वन्दे परिव्राट्चक्रवर्तिनं श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः. Hari Om to all. Welcome back to Bhagavad Gita session. Today we are going to look at Bhagavad Gita chapter 1 verse 41. In this verse, Arjuna takes his argument to its most serious social consequence. He is thinking, if unrighteousness spreads everywhere, if there are no boundaries, if people stop believing in dharma or punishment or swarga, heaven, or naraka, hell, then nothing will restrain human behavior. When fear of consequence disappears, when moral law is dismissed, people begin to act without accountability. What happens next? That is what Arjuna explains in this verse. Let us look at the verse first. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, verse 41. Adharmabhibhavat Krishna pradushyanti kulastriyaha स्त्रीषु दुष्टासु वार्ष्णेय जायते वर्णसंकरः. अधर्म अभिभवात्. Adharmabhibhavat. When unrighteousness prevails. Krishna, O Krishna, pradushyanti, become corrupted. Kulastriyaha, woman of the family or woman of the society. Strishu dushtasu, when women are morally compromised. Varshneya, O descendant of the Vrishni lineage. Jayate is born. Varna sankaraha, confusion and mixing of social order. Simple meaning of this verse: when unrighteousness spreads in society, O Krishna, the women of the families become vulnerable and morally disturbed. And when women are disturbed in such conditions, O descendant of the Vrishni lineage, Varshneya, confusion and disorder arise in society and future generations. This is the simple meaning of this verse. When we go deeper explanation of this verse, the outcome is extraordinary. He starts with adharmabhibhavat. It means when adharma dominates. The word abhibhava means to overpower, to overwhelm, to take control. When adharma abhivavat means adharma does not enter society quietly. When it rises, it does not remain partial also. It spreads and it dominates. Arjuna fears a stage where fear of consequences disappears, where moral boundaries weaken, where systems of justice collapses. When these protective walls fall, people begin acting without restraint. It is not that everyone suddenly becomes evil. It is that nothing stops wrongdoing anymore. There is no reverence for dharma, no concerns for heaven or hell, no awareness of accountability or fear of accountability. When consequences vanish, conscience weakens. That is the social climate Arjuna foresees. He is not merely afraid of war, he is afraid of society where wrong actions become normal, where restraint becomes weakness, and chaos becomes culture. That is what adharma bhivavat truly means. Not the presence of adharma, but its dominance. Dharma is like a boundary line. As long as it exists, society stays ordered. When it disappears, human impulses take over. That is the stage Arjuna fears, a civilization without moral breaks. Okay, what happens when adharma takes over the society? He answers in next word. Pradushyanti kulastriyaha. Women of the social order become vulnerable. We have already understood that kula does not mean merely a household in the previous verse. It refers to the broader social fabric, lineage, structure, continuity, and shared values. Therefore, kulastriyaha does not simply mean women of the family. It refers to women who are part of the entire social order. Arjuna's concern here is social protection, not blame. What Arjuna sees here? In times of chaos, law collapses, protection system weaken, power becomes abusive, accountability disappears. In such conditions, the physically stronger dominates the weaker. Women, especially in violent or lawless environments, often become more vulnerable to exploitation. Even in relatively stable societies, safety concerns for women are real. In a collapsed society, those risks multiply. When adharma dominates, some men, freed from fear of punishment, may exploit, they may objectify, they may abuse power. Because of that, women may then be treated not as persons but as commodities. This is not a statement about women's weakness. It is a statement about what happens when protection system fail. So, because of this abusive environment, women may struggle to live peacefully. Here, why Arjuna is concentrating on women rather than men, we have to understand one thing. Women traditionally play a central role in preserving family stability. They play a central role in transmitting values to the next generation. They play a central role in maintaining emotional solidarity. But in this war, when elders are destroyed, institutions collapses, security disappears, many are left without protection or support. After war, large numbers of men may die. Widowhood rises. Economic and emotional insecurity increases. Human emotional and physical needs do not disappear in such conditions. Without structure and responsibility, society destabilizes further. This is the chain reaction Arjuna fears. Women may end up doing unethical things. That is not good for the society. Then it comes again bigger question. If men have freedom to do whatever they want, why not women? If we start restricting women not to do certain things, isn't it hypocrisy? Probably this argument may come up. Arjuna's argument is not about denying dignity or rights to women. His concern is about social consequence, not gender control. If intimacy becomes purely pleasure-driven and detached from responsibility, long-term effects emerge. Emotional instability, uncertain lineage, lack of paternal accountability, social fragmentation. In ancient society, lineage determined as inheritance. Lineage determined as ritual responsibility. Lineage determined as social identity. If paternity becomes uncertain and responsibility dissolves, social order weakens further. This is what Arjuna connects later to Varnasankara. That we will see, confusion of lineage and duty. So, when he says Pradushyanti Kulastriyaha, Arjuna is not blaming women. He is not denying freedom. He is describing what happens when dharma collapses, responsibility disappears, power is unchecked. In such a world, the vulnerable suffers first. And when the moral foundation of family life destabilizes, the next generation grows without direction. That is his fear. Not individual immorality, but civilizational disintegration. When protection collapses, the vulnerable become exposed. When responsibility disappears, relationships lose stability. And when family structure weakens, society loses continuity. That is what Arjuna means by Pradushyanti Kulastriyaha. Okay, when that happens, what is the big problem you are seeing? That is where he says, Strishu dushtasu jayate varnasankaraha. This is one of the Arjuna's most misunderstood statements. The key term here is varnasankaraha. First, we must be clear here. Varna is not caste. Varna refers to psychological disposition, ethical orientation, and functional role in society. And Sankara means confusion, mixing, disorder, or breakdown of clarity. When Arjuna says, Strishu dushtasu varshneya jayate varnasankaraha, Arjuna is describing a chain reaction. When social chaos spreads, moral boundaries weaken. Relationships lose stability. Family structure collapses. Responsibility disappears. In such conditions, relationships may occur without commitment, stability, or ethical grounding. Children born into unstable environments may grow up without clear guidance, without moral direction, without social anchoring. This creates confusion, not of race, but of identity, duty, and psychological grounding. When Varnasankara, he says, Varnasankara does not mean racial mixing. We have to understand time and again. Varnasankara does not mean racial mixing. It does not mean impurity of blood. It does not mean social superiority or inferiority. It refers to disorder in functional and moral structure. In a stable society, parents are transmit values. Duties are clear. social roles are responsibly carried forward. When this transmission breaks down because of this unrighteousness in the society, confusion multiplies across generations. So, if relationships are violent, relationships are exploitative, relationships are morally irresponsible, relationships are emotionally unstable, children absorb that instability, not merely genetically, but through environment, limitation, and early conditioning. When this happens at scale, society begins to lose clarity of duty, respect for roles, ethical orientation, long-term responsibility. That systemic confusion is what Arjuna calls by saying Varna Sankaraha. Arjuna's fear is civilizational. When family structure weakens, when moral clarity disappears, when role responsibility dissolves, then the next generation grows up without anchor. And when that happens across the society, the nation becomes unstable. Again, when we are listening to these things and understanding Varna Sankara, we should not make a mistake Varna with caste. Varna Sankara is not biological mixing. It is moral and structural confusion. When dharma collapses, clarity of responsibility collapses. When clarity collapses, society loses direction. That is Arjuna's fear. Arjuna uses two words here. Adharma bhibavat Krishna pradushyanti kulastriyaha. There he uses Krishna. Then strishu dushtasu varshneya, he says varshneya. So adharma bhibavat Krishna. When he says Krishna, he does not randomly chooses this name. He deliberately says Krishna. Krishna is an intimate name. It is the name of a friend. Krishna is a close friend of Pandavas. He is cousin and he is a companion. And right now he is sitting as a charioteer. At this stage, Arjuna is not speaking to the supreme teacher. He is speaking to his beloved friend. By saying Krishna, he appeals emotionally, Krishna, don't let this happen. You understand me. Then, why he says Krishna? Krishna's very birth has declared purpose. Jatakam savadarthaya bhubhara haranaya cha dharma samsthapanarthaya. So, Krishna's incarnation purpose to destroy dictatorship, to relieve earth's burden, to establish dharma. And Krishna himself later declares in the Bhagavad Gita, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bharata dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. I incarnate to restore the dharma. So when Arjuna says Krishna, Arjuna is thinking deeply. If this war destroys families, if dharma collapses, if adharma spreads everywhere, then Krishna, you came to establish dharma. If this war increases adharma, will it fulfill your purpose? It is most gentle challenge. Arjuna is saying, is this destruction really dharma? By saying or thinking like this, Arjuna sees only the immediate social collapse. Krishna sees the long-term restoration. Arjuna fears war, chaos, adharma. Krishna knows unchecked adharma and dictatorship and greater collapse. Sometimes, to restore dharma, temporary destruction of corrupted structures becomes necessary. Arjuna sees the surface, Krishna sees the cycle of time. So, by saying Krishna, Arjuna is emotionally pleading, philosophically questioning, and silently challenging the purpose of the incarnation. But he has not yet understood dharma is not preserved by avoiding conflict, but by removing firmly established adharma. Again he says Varshneya. Varshneya means descendant of the Vrishni lineage. Krishna belonged to the noble Vrishni Yadava clan. It is known for strength, honor, and discipline. By addressing him as Varshneya, Arjuna is not merely stating genealogy. He is invoking lineage, responsibility, and inherited honor. Because Arjuna has just spoken about Varna Sankara, social and generational disorder. Now, he turns to Krishna and says, O Varshneya. In essence, he is saying, O Krishna, Varshneya, you come from a respected lineage. If this war produces social confusion, will it not stain noble lineages, including yours? By saying, he is not accusing Krishna or his lineage. It is an emotional argument rooted in shared social values. Arjuna is thinking in terms of lineage continuity, clan dignity, social inheritance, and generational purity of conduct. So, he fears that widespread death and instability will break family lines. create identity confusion, damage inherited honor. That is why, Varshnaya, you belongs to such a dignified clan. When we go with war, we destroy lots of families and lineage continuity will not be there and traditional continuity will not be there and it will harm the society. Is it right to go with war? That is what he is questioning Krishna here. See, notice the pattern here. When emotional, he says Krishna, oh Krishna, my friend. When invoking incarnation purpose, he says Krishna. When appealing to lineage honor, he says Varshnaya. Each name reflects his mental strategy. Here Arjuna is saying, you stand as a symbol of noble heritage, should not allow a war that destabilizes heritage itself. It is respectful, but it is also a strong emotional pressure. Arjuna sees preservation of lineage as dharma. Krishna sees preservation of righteousness as dharma, even if corrupt lineages must fall. Sometimes, protecting the name of lineage requires removing those who dishonor it. Arjuna is protecting the structure, Krishna is protecting the truth. So, by saying Varshnaya, Arjuna appeals to clan dignity and inherited honor. Subtly asking, will this war not damage the very noble order you represent? It is reverence mixed with doubt. When we look this verse in psychological aspect, at this stage Arjuna is in extreme future projection mode. His mind is racing ahead of the present moment. He is imagining total social collapse, generational corruption, permanent moral decay, loss of civilizational stability. This is not ordinary fear. This is moral anxiety amplified to its highest level. His intellect is constructing a worst case chain reaction. War, because of war, social breakdown, because of social breakdown, moral collapse, because of that lineage confusion, because of that civilizational instability. When anxiety reaches this level, the mind seeks one solution: stop the action completely. If action may produce irreversible damage, the safest choice appears to be inaction. This is a common psychological response. When consequences seem catastrophic, paralysis feels moral. That is why he don't want to fight the war. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, verse 41, Arjuna's fear reaches its peak. He believes if the war proceeds, dharma collapses. Women become vulnerable. lineage destabilizes. Future generations suffer. Society becomes chaotic. He does not see war as victory or defeat. He sees it as civilizational collapse. And Krishna remains silent. Why? Because Arjuna's compassion, though sincere, it is still mixed with emotional imbalance. His vision is clouded by attachment and anticipatory fear. He sees consequences but not the full context. Arjuna's heart is soft. His concern is genuine. But he is overwhelmed by attachment to relatives, fear of being the cause of destruction, anxiety about future outcomes. His reasoning appears noble, but it is not yet steady. Krishna waits because only when Arjuna's argument exhausts itself can true clarity begin. In next verse, Arjuna descends even deeper. Now he will not only speak of social collapse. He talks about ancestral suffering, ritual discontinuity, spiritual consequences beyond death. The fear expands from society to cosmic continuity. The descent will continue in next verse as well. That we will see in tomorrow's class. Until that, God bless you all. Hari Om. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Sarve santu niramayah. Sarve bhadradi pashyantu. Ma kaschit dukha bhag bhavet. Om shantihi. Om shantihi. Om shantihi. Om sham.